Hey Facebook fam, Dr. K back with another video for my channel, Winning in Education. So on this channel, as you know, we talk all things winning, whether you're new to teaching, you want to move up in your teaching career into a teacher leadership or principal position, or if you want to move out of the teaching game altogether, we talk all things winning on this channel. So as you know, I like to keep it real here. So we talk about teaching and how hard it is and whether this is a profession for you or not. So what we're talking about today is, should you move in to the higher education teaching realm from K-12? So recently, one of my clients booked a call with me because she was thinking of moving from her principal job into higher education, and she wanted to know what I thought, since I had done the same exact thing. And her question was, do I think it's worth it, or did I think it was worth it or not? And to be honest, that was a tough question for me to answer. To be truthful, there are pros and cons for staying in K-12 or leaving K-12 and coming into higher education, but only you can answer that for yourself. So that was my initial advice to her, but of course I went into it more because she had booked a call with me. So for those of you who don't know, before I moved into higher education as a professor, I worked in urban education as an elementary school principal. And as I often told my teachers back then, working in urban education is like working on the front lines of a war. And it's something one should think about doing for short stints of their career, not for a long-term situation, because you can get burnt out. You can get so, tired and possibly disgusted that you leave education, and we don't want that. So just like my client, I had also contemplating whether moving into higher education would be a good fit for me, a good move for me, would it be worth it or not? But as I said, everybody has to make that decision for themselves. For me, the main reason that I even started thinking about this was because of my health. So back when I was a principal, I had terrible stress levels. They were lethal. So, working as a principal, I often found my heart was racing throughout the day, the entire day. My workday stress levels and high blood pressure were consistently through the roof. So I never really felt relaxed, or I never really felt like I was off the clock, even on the weekends, because on the weekends as a principal, you're thinking about the work week ahead and what, could possibly be waiting for you there. You know what that's going to entail. So after getting the talk one day from my doctor, you know that talk, your stress levels, K, are through the roof. Your blood pressure is through the roof. And if you continue down this road, it could lead to serious health problems. So I was already on medication for blood pressure, so she really scared me. She scared me straight. So it was then that I decided to start working on my exit plan. So I'm telling this to my client so that she could see everybody has a different path. My exit plan started with me trying to take a realistic look into what I would be gaining versus what I would be giving up. So the top 3 considerations for me, and actually it morphed into 4 after I've done all my teaching, were this big 3 idea when you're moving into higher education. So if you don't know that, higher education is about teaching, service, and scholarship. So when you read job descriptions for assistant professor, or maybe even an instructor, they talk about your job in terms of teaching, service, and scholarship. Those are the big 3. So depending on where you go, what university you kind of go to will depend on the percentage that they assign importance to. Some of them assign high importance to teaching. Other institutions assign high importance to research. So The first consideration that I was telling my client to be aware of was it's not all about teaching as a professor. And part of her idea of moving from principal into higher ed is she just wanted to teach. And I get it because that's all I want to do. I just want to teach. She just wanted to teach, and I had to stop her right then. It's not all about teaching. You think going into higher education, your main job is going to be teaching your courses, working with your students, but that's not the case. So you will be teaching. Of course, you have to get your course ready. You have to prepare your syllabus or syllabi, depending upon how many classes you're teaching. You have to make sure that you have engaging activities in your class and all of that. You have to advise your students, right? But don't be fooled. It is not the main part of your job. So again, it really depends on what kind of university you go to. So there are universities that are teaching focused. So where teaching is their highest percentage of what the professor will be doing. And there are some universities that are focused more on research. So you kind of have to make sure you're applying to the right type of university, the right program. You have to be very clear when you're interviewing. And I specifically asked people, what is your percentage breakdown between teaching, service, and scholarship? And believe me, they know. This is not a hard question. It's not a new question. They're going to tell you, oh, 50% might be this, and you might do 30 here and whatever else. So that was the first big aha moment for my client that, it's not all going to be teaching. So if that's your number one thing, hold on. So the second thing we talked about was the scholarship, your expectation around scholarship. So scholarship is that professor's research agenda and your scholarly output. Translation, how much you're publishing, right? Publishing, presenting, all of that. So you've heard this idea in higher education it is publish or peril. Well, that's real. Research universities, particularly those denoted by an R1 ranking, meaning that they are a research first institution, expect professors to focus heavily on publishing, meaning teaching is not the most important thing. So even though you will be hired as an assistant professor, you may have classes that you're going to teach, probably many classes you're going to teach, your number one goal or expectation is tied to your scholarly output. Your raises are going to be tied to scholarly output. Your tenure is tied to scholarly output. So if you're going into higher education thinking, oh my gosh, I just want to teach, again, that's me. That's in a research one institution or even a research two institution now, they're all about research. So you have to be careful and you have to be very strategic when you're interviewing and ask tough questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions because you're thinking, oh my gosh, I got this interview, I'm so lucky. They are lucky to have you as a qualified candidate, and you are interviewing this team as much as they're interviewing you, and you have to ask questions. So the third part of teaching research is service. So teaching, your scholarship, and service. So whether you're in a teaching first institution or a research first institution, you still have expectations around service. And let me tell you, this service expectation is brutal. It is a lot. And service can be defined as anything the university deems worthy. Now, I've come to discover that there is a lot of work and time around service. I've worked in I'm on my fourth university, and typically we don't even discuss service in the interview. That's kind of in the back. They're always talking about teaching and scholarly output, right? Your scholarship, what's your research agenda? Talk to us about your research. Maybe one question about service, maybe, but service is in the background. Service is not in the background when you get on your job. So what do I mean by service? You're serving on committees. So committees for, oh my gosh, just about anything. I've been on committees, discipline committees for students who are about to be kicked out of school. And those committees meet all the time. So it really depends on what type of committee you're on and how often they meet. Here's a hint. Try to get on a committee that does not meet all the time. This particular committee I was on also met over the summer, and you guys know I am a summer travel person, so that was a no-no for me. Didn't know until I got there, but didn't change my plans. I did not meet over the summer. So you have to find out these expectations. So committee work is a lot. It's a lot of committees. Search committees, meaning that you're on a committee with other professors hiring for an upcoming job opening in your department. I am on 3 search committees this semester. It's a lot. Reviewing resumes. We do all the interviews, the reference checks, all of that, setting up the information, the day on campus. That's all basically, to me, free labor. It is another part-time job. So do not get fooled with this, oh, you just have a little service, you don't have too much. Don't fall for that. Every department, every university has their different expectations around service, but I can guarantee you the committee work will be brutal. And here is something that I told my client to keep in mind. You're balancing all of these balls in the air simultaneously. So you're teaching, you have your demands from your teaching. And then, oh, when are you publishing? You got to get your publishing, you got to get your articles out. And then I need you to be on these 12 committees. It's a lot. Okay, so the last thing, even though this is not teaching, service, and scholarship, it's not in that realm. To me, the other expectation or the other consideration is pay. And talking with my client, she was in an urban school district, just like I was. She was in New York. She was making tons more money than I made when I left. And what I had to prepare her with is the pay. So moving from K-12, particularly if you're in, let's say, even teacher leadership and above, going into your first assistant professor or even instructor job, the pay is going to suck. So my first job as an assistant professor, I took 50% pay cut, really. I went from an urban principal into an assistant professor job, and to be honest, it was about 50%. Now, I had known that going in. That was part of my weighing my pros and cons. For me, it was, I'm giving up all this stress. Hopefully, I'll get my health under control. I'm losing a lot of money. I'm going to move to an area that's, less expensive than where I am. So I kind of went into all of that knowing that. But if you're not prepared for it, it can be a doozy. And my client was not prepared. We looked at her numbers and we looked at a couple of universities that she was targeting, most of which had their professor pay online that we could find or we could research and find. And it was eye-opening for her. So those are considerations you have to think about if you want to do teaching, just teaching. You realize now it's not just teaching. You also have scholarship or your scholarly output, your publications and journals and all of that. You also have tons of service, and you're going to probably be doing that for little pay. Is it still worth it? I don't know. So, for me, it was worth it. Health-wise, it was worth it. My stress levels, my blood pressure are down considerably. They've never looked better. I've been taking off certain medications, but as I stated, it was a huge, huge pay cut, huge sacrifice for me. So, and I did not know going into higher ed that I would not be doing as much teaching as I wanted to do. So I wish I would have known that going in, that part of the job. Yeah, I just don't get enough of that. So the major parts of my job are broken down into probably about 45% teaching and 45% teaching, and the other is 60% service and scholarship. And let's say, I would say scholarship is 40 and maybe my service really is another 30. I know I'm over 100, but it feels that way. So you got to keep in mind, every university will be different, but you have to be prepared. You have to do your due diligence, see if you can investigate the universities you're thinking about moving into, find out their pay first before you start doing everything else. Like, don't just start applying and get excited because you get an interview. Find out what the money is going to look like first. But I'm here for you. My client, we had a great conversation. She's still thinking about it. I'm not sure if she's going to go that route, but we had a great conversation. So if you're thinking about moving from K-12 into higher education, I'm here for you. You can book a call with me. We can do a coaching session. We can do kind of a, pick my brain session. I will have links in the description below on how to get in contact with me. And I'd love to kind of talk you through that process before you make the leap. Don't make the leap before you get some real deal advice. Okay, guys, that's it for now. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Are you thinking about moving into higher education? Have you thought about it? Do you dream of becoming a professor and you think that's so glamorous and wonderful? I'd like to hear. So leave your comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, share my videos, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.